I'm working in PSP 15. I think what I'm using here though would be in any of the versions 7 on, etc. What I have been asked a couple of times is how I get the rounded corners on my abs. And in Photoshop, I mean that's what's popular right now are these rounded edges, and in Photoshop I think it must be able to do a much tighter curved edge, but the only way I can find to do it in PSP is to use the selection tool, rounded rectangle. And when you do that, so basically you click on a corner and drag, and you can go highlight whatever it is you want to be in your selection. So say this were an Av instead of just a wolf, but it's a pretty image, so I thought I'd use it. Anyway, once you have it highlighted, you'll get the marching ants. But see how swooping the rounded corners are? In Photoshop, I think they're able to do a lot smaller of a corner. Anyway, but this is what I found. Once I have it highlighted, I pull it off just so that I get my new layer over here that says floating selection, and then I copy it and paste that as a new image. So now I have it with the rounded corners. Then to give it some 3D effect, right, the inner bevel. When you're using an inner bevel, you need to use white or a real light gray, otherwise it'll affect the color of your entire image. And if it makes it too bright, you can play with the intensity and elevation. The higher these go, the brighter it gets. So like if I decided that's a little too bright for me, I might drop the elevation down a bit. So that darkened it up just a touch. The depth here, like sometimes I'll play around with it to try to get a more obvious bevel. So that made it a little more apparent. There's also the angle that you can play with if you want the bevel to show up on a different edge more. There we go. I tend to like it though where I had it down here. Anyway, so you can see you've got that nice beveled edge now. The one thing to remember is, well, there's two things. One is you have to have your layers merged before you take your selection. Otherwise, you're only going to be selecting the current layer. So you have to make your Av, merge all your layers, and then take your selection and make it a new image. The other thing to remember is that you can't save it as a JPEG. Otherwise, you'll end up with these corners being a solid white. So you have to export it as a PNG file in order to maintain the transparent corners and have the rounded edges. If anybody has any questions, needs some help, holler.